All right, so this is new. Today we're doing a collaborative spooky TV tag video. So I'm going to have a playlist down below. We've been doing this like once a month, twice a month, where we find a TV book tag and we, on each other's channels, just spend an evening chatting and answering the questions. So hope you have like some food or something, because this is going to be a long one, but it's going to be fun. And this one's based off Buffy, which I love dearly. I love a lot of supernatural TV shows from the 90s, but people here wouldn't let me do Charmed, so we're doing 90s Buffy here. Not you, but there was someone here who said no Charmed.
I was
here
about
we are.
to say, last time you asked if we could do Charmed, and we were okay.
I didn't say no Charmed. I said I've never watched Charmed. So I wasn't saying no to the tag.
Well, I guess we're doing Charmed next.
Yes, let's do Charmed next.
Regardless, here we are. Buffy is our spooky one. If you don't know, somehow Buffy is like one of the quintessential 90s vampire things before Twilight made vampires cool again. Like, this is my vampire thing. And we all chose names from the show. If you know, you understand. And yeah, I'm going to have everyone go around and introduce themselves. And I know I told them all we would do it while answering questions, but I lied. And now they're going to go in a circle and they're going to introduce themselves. And I'll have their channels and Instagrams and anything in the description. And they're all awesome and you should check them out. So Cordelia, do you want to kick it off?
I am Cordelia, aka Evie. I have a somewhat active, somewhat not channel called She Was Only Evie. But that means nothing. The important thing is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Unpopular opinion, which I probably shouldn't admit in front of everybody here, is the movie's better. But I'm just going to say it.
I haven't watched it, so I can't confirm or deny, but
Luke Perry. I'm just saying, Luke Perry. Anyways, as for the TV show, I think I watched like maybe a couple of seasons. And then I just know the rest of the characters by the zeitgeist. So I need to brush up on my Buffy. That's what I'm trying to say.
I am Willow, aka Katrina. I don't have a booktube channel, but I do have a bookstagram called The Diary of a Book Nerd. I have mostly been reading adult fantasy, and I've been getting into some sci-fi and a little contemporary here and there. Angela is to blame for most of my sci-fi purchases. And yeah, I'm excited to do this. I haven't seen Buffy in a long, long time, but I feel like this is going to be fun.
So I'm Buffy, aka Stephanie. My channel is Mr. Truths Reads. I mainly read fantasy, classics, and cozy mysteries. And I have not seen Buffy since middle school, but I remember really enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Sorry, folks. I'm having the audio issue again.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
In the meantime, Coda is, entertaining us with dog bone noises. It's great.
He's like talking to me because I'm not paying attention to him. He keeps putting his paws up on my knees. And I'm like, no, you can't do this right now.
Marco.
Polo.
Yay!
I'm so sorry, folks. Hopefully I can keep this from happening. But I'm Faith, aka Ariel, from a couple books with Ariel. I primarily read fantasy, both adult and YA, and occasionally contemporary and classics, but mostly stick in the fantasy world, branching out into sci-fi, like slowly but surely. But okay.
We're not going to talk about it here, but I'm always curious why sci-fi is so much more intimidating, because to me, I use like the same part of my brain of, I don't know what's happening, here we go. Like, it's for me the same sense of confusion in both genres.
Valid point.
Just newer. So I'm happy to get into it. It's just newer for me.
Yeah, it's just newer. Aww. Well, if it happens to come up with a book, otherwise we'll just have to have a discussion video later. But the first question, unsurprising to everyone, is Buffy, the damsel that does not need saving, that does the saving, regardless. This is the first one. Evie, take us away.
So It's to name a female character that does not need save, or that does the saving or needs nobody to save her. So I took the latter point of that, or latter half, and I picked Janie Crawford from Their Eyes Were Watching God. This is the story about a woman through her 3 marriages and how she maintains her identity and grows as a woman and as a person, despite her challenges in life and then with her marriages. So, yes, that is my answer.
I need to pick that one up. The new edition looks so pretty.
There's a new edition.
Yeah, it's like a 25 anniversary one or something, isn't there? At my bookstore, they have like a it's like that
75.
one. Or maybe it's that one. Yeah, I just see it at my bookstore now. It looks really pretty, and I want it.
Like the print flaps and the deckled edges, and
Yeah.
I want to try and get my local book club to read it, but I think I have to trick them. So I'll have to ease them into it.
Okay, so for this one, I chose Empire in Black and Gold, which is Shadows of the App series by Adrian Tchaikovsky.
You're just Alan if Alan were a girl. This is who you are.
I purposefully didn't pick a Discworld book or a Senlin or anything like that this time, but I mean, this is the best answer I could think of for this question because this is a military fantasy series, but the world is and the people in it are based off of insects. So humans have kind of evolved to take on insect qualities. And there are 4 main characters, 4 point of views mostly. And one of them is a spiderkindin, and her name is Tanissa, and she is fierce. She can fight. She does not need anyone to help her. She can take care of herself. And it was just the perfect answer for this question. Also, I'm really liking him as an author, so everyone should try him out.
It's on the never-ending TBR.
Good.
But here's the problem. Everyone keeps telling me to read Senlin and then John Gwen, but the minute I start to get close to those, you guys all jump onto a different series that you all talk about for months. And I'm just like, but I want to read Malice. Like, but is it not cool anymore? Is it because it's not 2020? I can't read Malice now? Like,
I have an unpopular
totally
opinion
can.
about Malice, so I'm going to stay out of that one.
Meanwhile, I'm on Ruin, and I say you can read it. So
fair, thank you.
So I picked The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi for mine. This is a historical fiction, and the main character, Lakshmi, left a bad marriage, and so she basically had to start over, and she's very independent and doesn't want to have to depend on anyone else. So she's just a fantastic character, and everybody should read this.
It looks so pretty.
It's so good. I've read it
Like that
twice.
cover.
It's amazing. And there's a recipe in the back for, I think, samosas.
Bonus. Absolute
Yeah.
bonus.
so for me, I actually picked. I don't own this one, so I don't know if you can see, but I picked
Crescent City.
There we go. I picked Bryce from Crescent City, specifically House of Earth and Blood, because honestly, when I was reading this book, I was like, wow, Bryce is kind of like a Buffy character. She is initially kind of comes off as like the party girl, the popular party girl that's just like out doing whatever, always wearing like really fashionable outfits and whatever. And then as it goes on, you find out she's actually incredibly capable, incredibly intelligent, and very, very self-sufficient. Like, she does not actually need someone to protect her or save her. So that's who I thought of.
That's actually a really good answer. Kind of sad I didn't think of it. It's like the only Sarah J. Maas main character that I like. Like, I mean, I like a lot of her books, but I like never like the main characters. I'm always just like,
me too.
I'm just like, I don't know.
Crescent City was my first. I was like the side characters.
Yeah, I always like the love interest or the side characters, or I just ignore them. I'm just like, she's thinking about things. I don't care. It's, it's really weird. Mine is a way throwback. I haven't read this book in a while, but it's from The Priory of the Orange Tree, which is that really big orange tome. This is Ead. I think that's how you say her name. It's E-A-D. And she's awesome. When you first meet her, she's doing some assassin stuff to save someone. So first scene, she's saving someone. She is trained at this like priory that you kind of learn about. She's got magical powers. She's pretty fantastic. So if you've been looking into reading that book and you want like really awesome characters, there's also a different female character that's also very badass and stuff like that. She's a dragon rider and is very cool. But I'm specifically thinking of Ede for this answer. So, choosing an old book. Could I have used Vin from Mistborn? Maybe. Maybe I just mentioned it right now. And we're going to move on to the next question. My channel, my rules. Xander, the hilarious linchpin in the group. Go, Evie. Or sorry,
So-
Cordelia.
It's fine. I have many identities, many of which you guys have not met. But anyways, I'm gonna pick Fezzik from The Princess Bride. He's not necessarily funny. I mean, movie Fezzik I think is more endearing and funny. He is kind of funny in the book, but again, I took the other half of this prompt, and I feel like he holds the group together. So that's why I picked him. And I mean, you can't help but, when you read this, if you've seen the movie, you can't help but think of Andre the Giant, and that's perfect. Like, he's perfect.
Yeah.
So I kind of cheated for this one.
Already, question 2.
Yeah, technically this started out as a TV show, but it is a graphic novel now. And I'm going to say Sokka from Avatar: The Last
I
Airbender.
knew it. I almost picked Sokka myself, and I was like, I bet Katrina's
Yep. So, I mean, he makes me laugh in every episode. He really does hold this group together. He's so underrated. And I just love him. And Ariel really loves him. So I'm surprised you didn't
Yeah.
pick him too.
Are
He's
people?
my
Do people
favorite.
not automatically love Sokka? I didn't know that
mean,
was enough.
Everyone loves him, but no one says, like, everyone, when you ask them, like, who's your favorite Avatar
Uncle
Last Airbender
Iroh.
character,
I mean, it is
Uncle
Iroh, but
Iroh.
like,
a lot of people say Zuko. Not very many people. Some people say Aang, but very rarely do you have someone who's like, no, my ultimate all-time, if I have to pick one, is Sokka, and I'm like alone in that camp apparently. But it's
Same.
for the reasons Katrina said. He kind of like
He's
is the heart.
Yeah, he is. And he's the only one who, well, of the main group that doesn't have any bending skills, and he holds his own. But my top are Iroh, Toph, and Sokka. So that's my answer.
I have the same 3 top ones. Just
we will be doing an Avatar book tag one day. Keep an eye out for this traveling book tag crew.
Yes. So I went with Moog from Kings of the Wild. He's this absent-minded wizard, and I knew I loved him when it mentioned the potion he makes, which is Magic Moog's Magnificent Phallic Phylactery. And it says you can go from 0 to hero in just 1 sip. I'm sorry. But, and everything is a production.
Okay, I
It's
wasn't really
hilarious.
having this high on my TBR, and now I have.
No.
I thought.
No, it's great.
No, I want to. No, I
Yes.
meant it's a good thing. This is a good thing. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Bumped it up
I
a little.
was laughing out loud at his stuff the whole book.
Wow.
I think Michael Nip mentioned in a video today that the 90s version is going to be coming out one of these years. So maybe I'll start that series when I can just binge it out. But I am nervous because it's an adventure story. And we all know that I'm no fun and I don't like
It's an
adventure
adventure
stories.
story, but
I
It's-
didn't know that.
it's so funny. It will make you cry. It'll make you laugh. It's great.
I have to move that up myself. Okay, so I feel like Katrina's going to understand why I didn't pick Sokka when I hold up my choice. So for this one, I had to go Merry, Pippin, and Sam
Okay.
from the Lord of the Rings series.
So you picked
because-
3 characters for the linchpin. Do we know the definition of a linchpin anymore, everyone?
No, apparently not. But like I was trying to pick between the in particular Merry and Pippin, and I feel like they are, you kind of can't have one without the other. But also I was listening to the audiobook of Fellowship today for a reread as narrated by Andy Serkis, and his voice for Sam was just cracking me up. But so I'll drop one off. I'll say Merry and Pippin, like, for final answer from the whole series. They're just, I feel like they become so important to so many of the events that happen, and they just make me laugh every time. Also because they also make me laugh in the movie a lot. So they were my story linchpin.
I approve of this choice.
Thank you.
The only one here who knows my choice is going to be Stephanie, and so this is Petal from The Memory Called Empire. Petal.
I love her.
I will read that series, that duology, one day.
It's just, well, maybe I said the wrong one. So I'm actually thinking not of 3 Seagrass. I'm thinking of 12 Azalea. What's his nickname? I thought his was Petal for some reason. I don't know. So there's a lot of names in A Memory Called Empire. And I'm thinking of 12 Azalea, which is for sure like a side character, kind of like Sokka. And like you're in this political intrigue mystery thing. Everything's tense at 100. And he's just like, let's get ice cream. And he's just like, oh, this is fun espionage. And I'm just like, sir, things are so serious. And I know that he was such a linchpin because like he wasn't there that often, but every time the plot was slow, if he showed up, suddenly I was so invested and nothing plot-wise had changed. It's just he was a part of the conversation and things like that. And yeah, I love him. What was his name, Stephanie? I thought it was Petal. Am I not remembering correctly?
I think it is Petal.
Okay.
But I'm second guessing myself now that you brought it up. But I think you're
because
right.
you said her, and that's 3 Seagrass, but I don't remember what her nickname was.
Her wasn't correct. I think it's Petal.
Yeah. Regardless, A Memory Called Empire. I love all the character interactions, but like he's special. He's special to me. All right, now we are going to Willow, the wallflower. I can't talk today. That becomes the centerpiece.
This answer might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to say Frankenstein's creature from Frankenstein.
I would agree.
The wallflower. Explain the wallflower part. I understand the centerpiece.
Yeah, well, again, might be a stretch, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, Frankenstein, that's the creature." Like, the creature is Frankenstein. No, Frankenstein is the doctor. The creature is the creature. And you know, even though this technically is following, well, I guess technically he isn't even a doctor. He's a student. He's a med student. But anyways, technically this follows him, but I think the crux of the story is the creature, and I think that is the heart of the story. No pun intended, because it's a heart on the cover. But
I love that.
How many editions of Frankenstein do you own again?
Like 10, 12.
Nice. I think you need at least 10 more, so work on that before the next video.
Yeah.
So Angela, I laughed before when you said you didn't choose Vin for your answer because I chose Vin for this one.
I approve. Continue.
Thank you. I hope everyone kind of knows what this is about, but I felt like this is okay, I guess technically she's not a wallflower, but she does want to blend in and not be noticed by anyone until she doesn't anymore. And she kind of comes into her own and becomes very powerful. So I thought that was a good fit.
So I ignored the wallflower part and just went name a character that becomes very powerful.
We made our own rules for this tag.
I did. So I chose Essen. I think that's how you pronounce it, from the 5th season. I love her.
And yet you haven't read The Stone Sky.
I haven't, but I've read the first 2, and they were both 5 stars.
Read
and
The
she
Stone
does,
Sky.
Yeah. And this one's hard to do without spoiling anything. But the main character becomes powerful and comes into her own, and it's awesome.
Most of these were hard to do without spoiling anything.
Yeah.
I do have a spoiler banner at any moment when we feel like we're dicey, so I'm ready. Okay. I've got it ready.
You
Someone
prepared.
give me a heads up, and I will we'll have the book shown and we'll have the spoiler banner and we'll be good. And then you can fast forward, viewer, and show back up when the spoiler banner's gone. That's how we're doing this today. Go ahead, Faith.
Well, on that note, you might want to put up the spoiler banner for this one.
All right. Here we go.
Perfect. So for this one, I chose Seb from Crown of Feathers.
Yeah.
Because this character, when you first meet him, is just like, I don't want anyone to notice me. I don't want anyone to know that I'm an animage. I don't want to be involved in anything. And then as the story goes on, he becomes the center of like a resistance. And eventually, at the end of the book, becomes a like centerpiece in that. Has everyone here read this?
Yeah, but it's not on my list, so.
Okay. Perfect. So he literally kind of becomes the heart of the little resistance and ends up becoming like an undercover spy, which is why I thought of him, because I was like, you very much didn't want to do this, and now you're the center of attention in a lot of ways. So I also just loved that character. I think he was my favorite from this. So.
I did too. I love him.
His character arc is amazing. Like,
I agree.
I'm excited to see where he goes.
All right.
I'm sorry, I just hear Coda, and
I'm trying.
I love it. It's so cute.
He's looking at me, and just he does this thing where he like ohs and he grumbles at me.
For those with no context, there is a doggo.
Yes, Coda is my dog.
Yeah, my doggo is apparently at the door. I'm going to text my husband.
We will all hear my cat eventually. He wants food like 5 hours ago. That is how he is always. Mine, I actually also didn't really do the Wallflower thing. I went from someone who became very powerful. I did Rin from the Poppy War, which I feel like is. I feel like people talk about this all the time. She's on the cover of the book. She is someone who actually kind of is a wallflower. She's not a flower, I'm not sure, but she's definitely not someone who's very noticed. She's supposed to stay like kind of out of the main viewpoint. Her adopted family does not like her, wants to marry her off real quick. And she's like, I don't want that. I'm going to get into this prestigious military school. Goes to the school and realizes she's got special skills that not everyone has and obtains power from there. I have mixed thoughts on the Burning God, but largely enjoyed my time in that series. Actually, they're not mixed. I did not like the execution of the Burning God. But
I will say the thing that I liked, one of the things that I like the most about the Poppy War is that even though Rin was this kind of chosen one or whatever, she still had to work hard.
Oh, she worked so hard.
Yeah.
Even when she realized that, like, there are some stuff about her that's like the natural talent part that like not everyone has an affinity for. But even then, like, she worked so hard. The beginning part, when you like learn about what she does to obtain things, is exhausting as a reader, I think. But now we are going to Giles, which is the father figure, which was the hardest one for me. I don't know about you guys, but I get to go last.
Sorry.
So my answer is Uncle Darren from Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones. Of course, I have to include a Stephen Graham Jones book in here.
The author I was expecting for this question.
Well, so the narrator and protagonist of this book is unnamed. It remains unnamed for the entire book. But his Uncle Darren is his quite literal stand-in father figure. And he's immature. He's like, I don't know, he's irresponsible, but he's like the best father figure that this character has. And he teaches him a lot of valuable things despite his kind of recklessness. And I really like this book if I can talk. So it was my first Stephen Graham Jones book. So if anyone is nervous about The Only Good Indians or My Heart is a Chainsaw, because that's everywhere, start with this. This started my love affair. So
before Katrina goes, Stephanie, which cat is having fun right now?
Oliver.
She's my favorite.
He has a lot of opinions.
Oliver has an answer for this question, obviously, and then we now see Coda.
The pets are, gosh, the pets are taking over this time.
They are. Apparently, they really like Buffy.
Oh my gosh, he acts like I ignore him all day. I take him to work with me. Like,
Aw. Maybe
Well,
he's
what's your
a diva like Lucy, and he just wants screen time. Sorry.
well, what's your answer for Giles while you give Coda all the needed attention?
so I actually went with an older book, one that I haven't read in years, so hopefully it actually fits. But I went with the Demon King, or the whole Seven Realms.
I need to
series.
read that young adult series.
I really
It's
liked
pretty
it.
good.
It's epic fantasy, multi-point of view. I think there's 2 point of views. And basically this world, there's kind of tension and conflict between the royalty that resides in the big cities, the clans in the forest mountainous areas, and then magicians. And okay, calm down. The main character, her mother is the queen of a region and her father is the head of the clan. And her father was actually a very supportive, sweet person in this book, which is very hard to find in young adult fantasy, especially. And I really liked their dynamic. And he was very considerate of her opinions and how she wanted to live her life. So I'm glad I thought of this because I was coming up dry for this question.
So I went with Dr. Gibson from Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. He sometimes his intentions are misguided, but he always does what he thinks is best for his daughter. Like his wife died and he thought my daughter needs a mother, so he married someone. And it doesn't turn out exactly how he thought it would, but he always has the best intentions, and you can tell he really, really loves his daughter, no matter what.
I need to read that author. So pets are really taking over because I just was joined by Scruffy.
I'm gonna have to rename this video.
Pets invade. Excuse you. So my answer for this was I think you pronounce it Kieran from, there we go. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Song
There
of
we
Achilles.
go.
I haven't read
Song
that
of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Kieran is the centaur creature that teaches Patroclus and Achilles. And I just thought, like, I've always liked that character when he appears in, like, Achilles, Iliad, all of that. Does he appear in the Iliad? I don't know. He actually also, if I remember correctly, teaches a couple heroes, so I feel like he appears in a couple myths. And I just really liked in Madeline Miller's version of him how, like, sagely he was. And how he not only taught them, like, I felt like he kind of taught them beyond just battle strategies and fighting. So that was my choice for this one because I loved that character so much.
I just thought of a better one than the one I had, like literally like 10 seconds ago. So this is amazing. It's not even, it's going to sound like it's because of what you said, and I don't think it is, but his name is Apollo, so it's a Greek name, but it's in the book The Changeling by Victor Laval, which I just read.
Oh, yeah.
And the main character, Apollo, is a new father, and it's about being a new father, and he kind of gets wrapped up into this dark fairy tale that puts his child in danger. And even before that, where he has to, prove himself as a father figure in that part of the plot, he is just like a 10 out of 10 dad. He like wakes up every morning to take his kid to the park so his wife can sleep in. He's like, he always puts all the food together. He takes like 12 pictures of his kid and posts them all at once, even though they're all blurry and the same. He just like loves his kid so much. He was a very likable character to read from, and I was very stressed for him for a lot of the book. So he's a really solid partner and father to this kid. Granted, I only saw him be a father for like the early stages, but that was also a big central part of like his character is he's a new father, and he was a character whose father had left him as a kid, so he had that baggage going into it. Highly recommend for the spooky season. And so now we will get into Angel, which I've made sure my answer wasn't spoilery, but I'm sure some people will need me to have the spoiler tag for this. So it's the first love with a dark side. which I think the prompt goes on to be like someone who betrays or goes bad or something.
Appeared to be nice and then had a bad or dark side. Yeah, so this is the question that I really, really struggled with. I first thought of Hans from Frozen. I'm really gonna go with that. Spoilers.
You can't spoil Frozen. It's like spoiling The Lion King. You can't do it.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And then the only actual book answer that I could think of, I was like, I can't say it because one, it's my opinion, and two, it was like, people would show up at my house and kill me. Like if I like, it's not even allowed to have a spoiler tag.
You need to tell us that when we're offline. Now I need to
Yeah, I'm curious.
Well, some people I can't tell anything to because it is part of a series which they are in the midst of.
Ah.
So, yeah. But anyway, so I actually thought of a character for an answer from a book that I was going to use for a different answer. That is Frank Churchill from Emma by Jane Austen.
Good one.
Yes. So,
That's a good one.
he's a douchebag. So, but Emma loves him, and he turns out to be a douchebag. So,
Who was that character in the movie Clueless, for those of us who might not have read Emma?
so he was Christian, but he was
yeah.
obviously adapted for modern tastes, but yes, he was Christian.
All right.
Okay, I figured out an answer that is not spoilery because it's literally part of the premise for the book. So I went with Kiss of Deception,
Oh yeah.
Remnant Chronicles, which is another older one. So I had to reach back for these. But basically, this main character, Leah, he does not want to get married to the man that her parents arranged marriage with her at the very beginning of the book. So she runs away. The prince that she was supposed to marry and an assassin both go after her, and she meets both of them, but you don't know who is who. So you kind of grow fond of both of these characters, and you don't know as the reader which one is the assassin. So that person does have a dark side, and you find out eventually. It's kind of like a mystery fantasy / light romance, but YA.
I have heard don't listen to the audiobook if you want that part to be a mystery, because in the audiobook I think they have different voices for the two
that's
men.
good to know. Yeah, that would be
I've heard that. I haven't read it, but yeah, I think Sophia talked about it, maybe.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I just want to say I love that we have a nose on the side of your screen. It's adorable. So mine isn't spoilery. Like, it happens in the first 100 pages of the book, and it's like a 700-page book. But I went with Sir Percival Glyde from The Woman in White.
I don't think we need to put a spoiler tag to this. I don't think anyone here knows what this book is.
Well,
I've
Evie
heard
might.
of it so much, but I still have no idea what it's about.
so this character, Walter Hartwright, is going down this road, and he sees this mysterious woman in white, and she says she's in trouble and she needs to get away from there. So he helps her, and then a few minutes later, people come by and say she escaped from an asylum. And then we have another, like, a group of sisters, and their stories end up like tangling together. But the Sir Percival Glyde, at first you think he's kind of nice, and then he turns out to be the villain, and then you learn all these secrets that happen, and he's horrible. Which is a horrible synopsis, but it's really, really good.
So I don't have the actual book, but I have the series that it goes in. So for this one, I selected Doro from the Patternist books, specifically Wild Seed, because I haven't actually read Mind of My Mind, which is the sequel, but I need to.
And that happens very early.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I was like, I feel like this happens in like the first chapter. Doro is a god, a Is he like a god of something specifically? I couldn't remember.
No. He's just people who meet him tend to think of him as a god. He's not actually a deity.
Okay, that was it. It's literally been 2 years since I read Wild Seed, but it's by Octavia Butler, who's amazing. If you haven't read her, read her. Very, very amazing writer. And in Wild Seed, so Doro is this immortal entity that people perceive as a god, and he eventually comes across another entity, and he kind of like not like bewitches her in the way that word means, but like he kind of convinces her to kind of be his significant other, for lack of a better word, and then immediately becomes like a controlling
Douchebag.
Yeah. Douchebag, thank you.
He's not a good character. No, he's
Not
very
at all.
easy to not like, but he does come
Yeah.
on very charming. There's a lot of charisma in him.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was my choice. That was like the easiest one for me. I was like, oh, I know exactly who I'm going to pick for this.
Well, like, I picked it as so the first love with a bad dark side. So like I had two answers. So one's for the Great Alone, because it's not really in the story, but like the father figure in that is the first love of the wife, and it's, you know, he goes to Vietnam, has a bunch of PTSD, and it manifests in domestic abuse. So obviously there's a dark side to him, and kind of when they travel to Alaska, which is the story, is this family goes to Alaska, it comes out when it's winter. So that's like one answer I had, but it's not like he becomes dark. Like when you enter the story, you are at the point in the family where they are dealing with his PTSD and how it manifests in the household. But he was a first love with a dark side. But I'm going to go a little lighter with Renegades, which, because this is also just part of the plot, is you have Nova, who is the main character. There's two characters. There's Nova and Adrian. And she basically has it out for the Renegades, who are like the Avengers of this world. And so she kind of joins up so that she can foil them. And along the way, because it's a young adult, she meets a boy who happens to be the son of a renegade. And, you know, you can guess, right? It's a young adult series. Like, it's a love interest, and he doesn't know she has a dark side or secrets or other nefarious plans. And that's part of the dramatic irony for the trilogy. So it's pretty fun. Doesn't have as much of the miscommunication as it could, considering that plot element.
That's Marissa Meyer, right?
Yes. I haven't read her other very popular series. I only read Renegades. So, well, I read the trilogy, which is...
I would say...
I don't like when trilogies names are the same as the first book name. I know it's common, but I don't like it.
That's fair. I know the other series is the Lunar Chronicles, and I would say, because I've read Renegades, not the rest of the series, and I've read Lunar Chronicles. I feel like whichever one you start with, that's the one you're going to like, and you try to go to the other, you're just going to be bored.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just don't... if I were to ever read hers, it would be because I was in a retelling vibe, and that doesn't always hit me. Like, I have to be like, I want Cinderella today, which, like, that happens once every 5 years, so I don't really know.
They are pretty solid retellings, I will say.
Well, and then when I'm feeling Cinderella, I just watch the Rodgers and Hammerstein version with Whitney Houston, and then I'm good.
The best version.
Yes.
All right, next up, we've got Spike. The one that tries to do the good, right thing, and then in parentheses, the prompt says, but normally fails at it.
So I'm focusing on the tries to do the right thing, and I will not say whether this character, where he falls either way. But I'm going to say Adam from the Books of Babel series. Like, a lot of people don't like Adam, especially after they've read the first book. But I really empathize with him. Like, he's trying to take care of his sister, for God's sakes. And he's trying his darndest in a very unusual, unexpected situation. So he's got a lot of crap that he has to deal with, and he's doing his best. So, yes.
That's a good one for this.
Mm-hmm.
We almost made it a whole video without Senlin. Almost.
I made sure not to pick it.
I'm very proud of you, Katrina.
Thank you. I went with Emma from Emma. Because she's just trying to make her friends and family happy. She wants people to find love, and she's trying to make it happen. doesn't always go very well, but she tries her hardest. And I know a lot of people find her character so annoying. I never did. I've always been fine with Emma. This is actually probably the one I read the most as a teenager, I think. But yeah, Emma from Emma.
Yeah, I think Emma's probably, other than Pride and Prejudice, I think it's the most accessible of her novels.
I would agree with that.
Was modern, so.
Yeah. So I went with Misaki from Sword of Kaigen. She has kind of a turbulent past, and now that she's a mom, she just tries to do the right thing and what's best for her family and her kids. And she's just a really good, strong character. So this one was actually easy for me to pick, which was nice.
I would have put her as a Buffy-like character, but that's just me.
Well, I already had an answer for that one that I knew I wanted to use.
I'm just saying. And
But I would agree with that. She is a Buffy character as well.
Especially since Alan basically says that book has CW scenes in it, which Buffy was a part of Warner Brothers, which became CW. So.
Yep.
Which he's not wrong, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think those situations can work in the right context. I mean, there's a reason that channel has so many popular shows.
That channel saved me in undergrad. I didn't have the brain capacity for anything past CW level drama.
Yeah, same. Mostly what I watched. So my answer on this is kind of a stretch because I kind of took it a little differently, where I feel like this character doesn't try to do the right thing and somehow kind of ends up doing the right thing, and that was Victor from what is the series called?
Villains? I think?
Yeah, I think it's
Villains?
Villains, and there's going to be a
Okay.
third one, and everyone's like, she never told us, and I don't think she had to. But...
Yeah, right. Like, I'd just be excited there's a third one. But so specifically Victor, because I feel like, I mean, the series is called Villains. Your two main characters are Eli and Victor, and they are like each other's nemeses. And their whole goal throughout the entire series thus far is to just undo each other. And with Eli, he's just evil, in my opinion. But with Victor, he kind of ends up like saving a couple people.
I think he matches more with Spike than what the prompt says for Spike. I think this
Yeah.
prompt for Spike is later season Spike. But if we're
Yeah,
talking
I
like
would agree.
season 2 or season 3 Spike, I think you're right about Victor.
Yes, I would agree with that, because actually what's fun about doing this tag is my husband had never seen Buffy before, so we're actually watching it, and we're in season 2.
Season 2 is
And
great.
so-
Season 2 and 3 are my favorite.
Yeah,
It's like
season
peak
2
Buffy.
and 3, I agree. Those are my favorite. I also really like season 5.
I mean, I like the whole thing. I think it's worth finishing regardless of its like
Oh yeah,
ebbs
definitely.
and flows. But I just
But
like
yeah, so
high school drama, and after season 3 is when the high school drama becomes college drama, and college drama is
Yeah.
just,
Well,
it
and,
adds
like, that-
adult responsibilities, which is too much.
That whole season where they're at college is just like,
Yeah,
not what this,
yeah.
not what this tag is about. But yeah, so I picked Victor. I thought Victor was a very Spike-esque character, so that's why I chose him.
Has anyone here read The City We Became, or is it just going to be me? You have? Okay, so you'll understand my answer, which is Staten Island. There's a character for Staten Island. She's frustrating. So for The City We Became, it's being born. There are a lot of boroughs, and suddenly a bunch of people represent an entire neighborhood of New York City, but they used to be a person. But they just are now the representative and have powers related to New York City. And so you've got Brooklyn, you've got the Bronx, you've got Manhattan. Oh, I'm going to forget a bunch of stuff because I'm not from New York City, but Staten Island is one of them. I know I'm forgetting Queens. Queens is the other one. Queens. Am I? Those are the main 5, right?
I think so.
That sounds right.
And so Staten Island, much like how Staten Island is in relationship to New York City, is a little more conservative, a little less liberal, and she really does try to do the right thing, but she's definitely that friend that you know isn't actually like a bad person, but like didn't vote politically correctly in 2016, is what I'll say. Like, that is who Staten Island is. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not a bad...
Oh yeah, I agree.
But like they are misled because of what they've been told and because of pressure, and it's very frustrating to read, and it's so perfect. So, and she really does try, but she's just so overwhelmed and such a product of her environment and happenstance and
Very well written.
oh, extremely well written. And her name's not actually Staten Island. It's like each name that every character has is like close to the neighborhood name, but I can't remember her name right now. Like the Bronx is represented by Bronca. I love her. So stuff like that. It's very good. All right, we're going to move into Anya, which I debated whether this should have been on here because we were doing mainly first 3 seasons, and she is there, but she's not like a main character yet till like season 4.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, caveat, there's like 20 questions for this tag, and we had to narrow it down.
Unless you guys wanted to hear us talk for 3 hours, because that's what would have happened.
Literally.
So what do you have for your old soul?
So harken back to, was it the Golden Girls tag that we did? But Morosco from the Winter Night trilogy. So
It has to come in at least one.
it's true. Because according to Angela, he's old, and I had a mental breakdown and an existential crisis over that, apparently referred
But
to
he
Golden Girls
is.
tag.
Wait, which character is that? Someone remind me.
The snow god, the winter death king
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So,
He has many names.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait, which? It's also been an age since I read Bear in the Night.
I think you freaked out when I used him for a different answer when I said he was like attractive or something. And you're like, how can he be attractive? He's old. I'm like, but he's
No. It was like you said, like I think it was this. Was it the Stanley prompt? Like, oh, he's old. Something about the golden.
I don't know. I think I used him for the Parks and Rec tag. There's a Parks and Rec tag.
Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah. Also, Parks and Rec. One of the tags that we've done previously. I had a meltdown and an existential crisis over Morosco being old because he's young in my mind.
I still think my favorite live meltdown experience will watch Alan realize that he's not actually a rebel, that he's part of the imperialistic force.
It was wonderful being part of that experience. So
that was in our Hyperion book club chat. We realized in real time that really, Do You Hear the People Sing should not be sung by Alan.
I mean, sung to Alan, sure, but
So I interpreted this slightly differently. I also am realizing that at the beginning of this video, I said that I mostly read adult fantasy, and hardly any of my picks reflect that, but that's okay. I went with a character in Muse of Nightmares. I'm not going to say the name of this character because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But there is a character who looks like a small child, and they do not act like a small child. They are a very old soul, and they take power over the adults fairly quickly and is very manipulative and sneaky.
It sounds like a horror book, but I'm fairly certain it's not.
I was going to say, it sounds like Children of the Corn or something.
This character freaked me out a little. I'm not going to lie.
It's one of those books where it has horrific things, but it's so beautifully written.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I do need to read it. I have like a list of young adult series that I want to read because I've heard enough about them, and that's on it. It helps that it's a duology.
Yeah, really easy to get through. And it's so beautifully written that you have to think about it. Like, wait, did I just read that? What just happened? It's one of those. So
you think my brain does that? My brain does not do that.
No.
My brain goes words. Oops, don't know that word. Keep going words.
That
this is
choice
why Evie and I like very different books.
So mine, I have to also insert this book in at least one question. So I went with Anne from Anne of Green Gables.
I was wondering why your father figure wasn't from that book.
She was just the one that I know I wanted to use for Old Soul, so I had to find another answer for that.
She does only say that 20 times in the book.
Yeah. But just the way she talks, too, is just someone who's way older than her.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go with Anne.
That's a good answer.
I just realized I read the entire question wrong, so my answer doesn't make sense.
What's the actual thing?
seem or appear older than their actual age.
Which actually is incorrect when you actually, Evie, I think your interpretation of the question is correct because Anya is older than she appears.
Yeah, I think that's how
isn't.
it's supposed to be. There are some typos in the prompts. You went with the correct spirit because mine's very similar, and you were having me freak out.
So my answer was Yael. I think it's Yael. I'm Jewish. I should know how to say her name. From Wolf by Ryan Groudon, which is a alternative history set in World War II and in like Holocaust. Not just Holocaust, but and Yael is actually a camp survivor who becomes like a spy. And I just feel like the nature of like being a teenager who survived like a Nazi death camp is going to age you. And with the things that she has to do as the book goes on, it's very adult decisions. It's very adult things that she has to do. But I think this book is technically YA, and she herself at least is young. Like I think she's like in her teens from what I remember. So that's why I picked her, because I was just like, this is heavy stuff for a teenager to be dealing with. I also feel like the nature of being a teen in a war, even an alternative history version of a war, ages you up mentally, even if like that's not your actual age. So that's why I think that. Very good book.
So my answer is kind of a blend of Katrina's and Evie's, but it's from a different book. It's from the 100,000 Kingdoms, and I can't ever say his name. It's maybe it's Sieh, and he is the god of youth, of childhood. So he appears very young, he's very playful, but he's actually one of the first gods that was ever created for this world when it goes through its creation origin story sort of thing. So he's actually one of the oldest characters in the whole series, but he looks like a kid, and he's always like bouncing around on his like bouncy ball and like flying through the air, and he's very childlike. And he's a great character. And I wanted to have a Jemison on this list. So this is The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. It was actually her first published book. And I am still desperately looking for a trade paperback of the original cover. If anyone can find one. Not the UK. I already have the UK. I want the US. They're different sizes. That's just my book collector soul trying really hard.
I already made an attempt, so I'm
You
out.
did. I told you. It's just you can't trust, unless there's a picture, you can't trust it.
It's true.
Send me a picture of the cover, because I have a bookstore, Katrina's familiar with it, where random gems like that will appear. So
I'll do that. I'll send you what I'm looking for. I finally found the second and third, and I kicked myself because the first one was at my used bookstore, but I hadn't collected the other ones yet, and I'm like, I'll never find all of them. It's $9. I'm not going to buy it. Kicking myself.
Send me a picture. I'll see if I can find it for you.
And obviously this is not important, but I am who I am, so... Oz, the one that gives you fuzzy feelings.
So the prompt thing is name a character that is a great boyfriend, maybe has something that stops him from being perfect. So I kind of struggled with this one, and then I realized to add another N.K. Jemisin to the list. Madding from specifically The Broken Kingdoms, which is the second book in the Inheritance trilogy. He's a good guy, and he had a relationship with the main character. Yenna? No, not Yenna. That's from the first book. I'm blanking on her name.
Hora is the name of the main character in the second book.
Yes. So he had a relationship with her. They were technically broken up, but he's still a good boyfriend without being her boyfriend anymore. He's just a good guy. Good guy.
Amicable breakups. We love to see him.
Yes.
So for this question, I had an existential crisis in our group chat earlier because I was like, oh my gosh, no male characters give me the fuzzy feelings. What's wrong with me? But then Ariel was like, it doesn't have to be a boyfriend, husband / spouse or something like that. So I went with the Bromance Book Club, this whole series, specifically the one whose nickname is the Russian, because he's Russian and no one can pronounce his name. But basically, this is set in Nashville. It's a contemporary romance, and it's all of these powerful men are failing at their relationships and love lives, so they decide to start a romance book club to learn what they're doing wrong. And it's hilarious. And the Russian is probably my favorite. And he's just big and intimidating and scary, but he will like tell the other guys, like, it's okay to cry, man. Like, come here, let me give you a hug and stuff like that. And he's so sweet. So I was like, yeah, he's going to be my pick for that.
That's also a very good Oz pick, because Oz was very, like, even for the 90s, like, very anti-toxic masculinity. He was very, like, chill.
This series talks about that a lot. Every other page, every other chapter, they're like, hey, watch that. Are you being toxic right now? You don't have to act like an alpha dude right now. Come on, get in touch with your feelings, man. It's hilarious.
So mine, I couldn't pick Jamie Fraser every time.
That's true.
And this one does say he has flaws, so he's out. So I went with Adolin from Stormlight. He got on my nerves in the first book, but the second book, I really, really love him.
I forget you haven't read Rhythm of War yet. Like, I just forget these things.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet. But he's awesome. And he's very understanding about a thing with another character that she's dealing with. So he's a cinnamon roll.
He's, like, very good with his friends with mental health stuff. He doesn't try to fix them. He's very, like, where are we at?
Accepting. Yeah.
He's very, like, what do you need right now? He keeps an eye out. It's not, I like that.
So my answer for this comes from what's become like one of my favorite mangas, and that's Mr. Aizawa from My Hero Academia. So Mr. Aizawa is the teacher. I don't have one of the books that has his picture on it, but he is the teacher for Class 1A, which is all of our students in this. If you're not familiar with My Hero Academia, it's set in a world where everybody has a power and they can go to school to become like a superhero. Like, being a superhero has been incorporated essentially because everybody has it. So there you go. And Mr. Aizawa has a power where if he looks at you, he can negate your quirk. But he's also this like brooding and like kind of grumpy character when you initially meet him. And as the series goes on, he becomes less grumpy and more mentory. And he just has like this like inner heart of like, he really cares about the students. He really wants them to be the best at what they do. In the TV show, there's this great scene where he gives an entire speech about Class 1A, and I was just like, this is so good. And I just have like a major crush on Mr. Aizawa. And the only reason I say he's not completely perfect is because he's so devoted to his job, he would never have time for a girlfriend. But I love him. He's my favorite character in the series. He also, there's like a scene where he walks in, and he's so tired, he just like zips up in a sleeping bag and like lies down on the floor. And you're just like, what just happened?
I think we've all wanted to do that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure. It's so great.
Well, similar to Stephanie, I can't choose Adolin for all of my bookish crush questions as much as I'd like to, because he has no flaws, so he can't be in this one. And then I wanted to choose Vargo, but the question said would make a good boyfriend. And although I love Vargo, he would not make a good boyfriend. I feel like that's pretty clear. He's a playboy. He's a little too selfish to be what I would consider a good partner. Mm-hmm. So then I was surprised at who I landed on, and that would be Hilo from the Greenbone Saga. Which is not even like my favorite character in the Greenbone Saga, and I have no desire to actually actually, that's the thing. I do think he's a very good boyfriend. Like, every scene where he's being like a partner, I'm like, A+, man, you are so good at things. Like, when you first meet him, he's coming home, his girlfriend's in bed, he sees that her book's like on her, he takes the book, puts a bookmark in it, puts it on the bedside table.
Wow.
And then wakes her up to a good time. I'm just like, like, it's fantastic.
Like, a good time?
Like, a good time.
Okay.
It was very jarring listening to it on audio when you weren't expecting it.
Yeah, I hope no one thinks of that as a spoiler. It happens in like 20 pages.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're talking about flaws. Hilo is flawed. He is a flawed individual who does questionable things on the regular. Like every time I think, you're okay, man, you're okay, he does a thing, and like I can't even, like, there are lists of things I could spoil that are just like, sir, you can't just do that. But you did. So I wasn't expecting that to be my answer, but that's where I landed. And now for our last question, everyone. Faith, the one that just doesn't fit. Poor Faith. She really gets a bad rap in the show.
No, she's like my favorite character.
Yeah.
So it says name a character that wants to find his or her place, but somehow always stands out. So that's what I focused on rather than the actual like prompt thing. Picking another from this trilogy, but it's Yene from the 100,000 Kingdoms. Sorry to take another reuse the character, but like the whole point is, and the whole premise of the story is that she is going to essentially compete to be like the leader of this Sky Nation area, and like she doesn't want to stand out. Like she's fine with staying at home and doing her thing, but then she gets summoned to this literally god city, and she sticks out like a sore thumb, and she gets threatened with her life. So on multiple occasions,
pretty much instantly.
Yeah.
Life's a little rough.
I also used a repeat book for this one. I went back to Empire in Black and Gold. Because there is a character, his name is Totho, and he is a mix between a fly and a beetle, Kindin. They're not really flies and beetles, but that's what their races are based off of and the characteristics they have. And because in this culture, being of mixed blood is frowned upon, he cannot fit in with his friends and the people that he looks up to at the university that he attends. He's always kind of shunned aside, and he's not given the same opportunities as everyone else, and he just really wants to fit in with his friends, and he's kind of just always looking in from the outside. So he's actually one of my favorite characters in this series so far. But yeah, he just wants to fit in, and I feel bad for him.
So I went with Jonathan Collins from Ziggy Stardust and Me. It's a YA historical fiction. It's really, really good. But it's 1973, so homosexuality is still considered a mental illness, and he's gay. He's got an alcoholic father, and he only has one friend, and he's always bullied. So he just wants to be included. And he does end up finding a friend that they develop a really good friendship. But for a good chunk of the book, he's just searching for his place. And he's also obsessed with David Bowie, hence the title. I mean, so that's where his refuge is David Bowie.
I mean, who's not obsessed with David Bowie? Let's be honest.
I totally watched Labyrinth like 3 nights ago. So I'm going to give my pick for this, and I'm not really going to explain why, because A, it's a spoiler, but because some folks in here may read this series, I don't want to like even go into it. So my pick for this was Camlin from The Faithful and the Fallen. He's just my favorite character, and he just has a journey throughout this series, and sort of ends up finding a place, but simultaneously wasn't looking for it, and was also kind of like looking for it. So that was my choice for this.
Mine is going to be Elsa from Folklorn, which is a book I read pretty recently. So this is more like magical realism, literary fantasy type of book. And it's contemporary. Elsa is a Korean American, and when we first meet her, she's in Antarctica working as a physicist. She's studying neutrinos, and like that's from that point forward, you see every moment in which she's always just stuck out, and she never internally thinks I want to belong, but you can feel the desperate just want of just not having to feel like she has to fight for her space. So she's like one of the few women. She's for sure one of the few Asian women. And then when there are multiple Asian women, you know, trying to fight the stereotypes of that. And then she's in Sweden. And then there's a different level there because Sweden actually adopted a lot of Koreans. So there's a lot of Korean Sweden people, but she's Korean American. So that's also very different. And she actually forms a relationship with an adopted Korean man, which is really interesting to parse because they have very different ways of wanting to belong and feeling lost. Like she has her Korean American experience and he has his as an adopted person by white people experience. And that theme is laced throughout the book, especially with Elsa. And even when she's back home in California, she never personally felt like she belonged just as an immigrant, like first generation immigrant, even on her own streets. So really liked that story. I'm a sucker for stories with that type of like theme in like the immigrant story. And that is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer tag. I still think Buffy should have been paid to do her job, especially when she graduated high school. Feel like there should have been a stipend. Then a lot of season 6 didn't have to go down like how it did.
No.
There's a lot of issues there. But thanks for watching. Make sure to check out all of these people and our other playlists if you just like listening to us ramble about books. I promise it's all just as chaotic as this, if not sometimes more so. The last one, I was very tired. I was really tired the last so I didn't say anything I regret it, but I was a little. For those of you who like whenever I rant and misrant Angela, go check out some of those other videos.
You were very sassy last time, and I was here for it.
I loved it.
And I don't know when the next one will happen, but I'll for sure share it when it happens. I think it might be Ariel's turn for the next one. We'll have to find out.
Ooh,
Dun, dun, dun.
I can do that.
And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.